Hey guys, what's up? It's me again, Tom from TDT Tom's Tech Time. Today we want to throw a look at the DJI Osmo. We want to find out what the best camera settings are for achieving a cool film look. Let's get into it right now. Enjoy the in-depth tutorial of mine and follow all these steps and you'll be ending up as a superb camera operator. Enjoy the episode, subscribe, leave a thumb up, stay tuned, film safe. Okay everyone, let's just jump right into the settings, but before we actually get started, let me note that the menus look a little different on different devices. It looks a little different on the iPhone than it looks different on the iPad, and it looks a little different on the DJI Go app for Android devices. And there is something else I want to tell you. If you want to see the entire menu before we actually get into it, we should tap at these parameters and set those to auto, just to make sure, because in the manual mode we do not have all options available, but we're getting to that later. Okay guys, let's just jump right into it, and right now we are going to tap at the bottom right hand side at the settings icon, and that brings up the general menu, and we are going to tap at camera. And we are getting to the first interesting menu. First of all, let's just choose MP4 or MOV. What's the difference? Actually, there is no difference when it comes to video quality. The quality is the same with both. Let's just say that MOV works a little better on Apple computers, while MP4 works a little better on Microsoft computers. And because I'm using a Microsoft computer, I'm going to leave MP4 activated. Next up is sound, and of course I want to have the sound enabled. Even if I don't need it, I'm simply going to delete it later on in post-production. And of course we remember that the inbuilt microphone of the Osmo is really weak. We can of course buy an external microphone, and there is even an external microphone made by Rode. By the way, I'm using a Rode microphone right now as well. I really adore Rode microphones, and if you want to get that special microphone for the DJI Osmo, check out the product link in the description of this video. Down at the bottom, we can now choose whether we want to film in PAL or NTSC. Now, what are PAL and NTSC? PAL and NTSC are regional codes. PAL is the code for Europe, while NTSC is the code for the United States, for whole North America plus Japan and some other countries. And of course, there is a world map, and I'm going to show that to you right now. And you can find your country in here. And of course, we could right now say, okay, I am, for example, located in Europe. I'm going to choose PAL. But no, I recommend each and every one out there using NTSC. Why is that so? NTSC simply offers us a higher frame rate when it comes to filming in 4K or Ultra HD later on. PAL only offers us maximum 24 frames per second, which is quite stuttering if you are not an absolute film pro. And NTSC offers us up to 30 frames per second, but there are a few things you gotta take care of when filming with NTSC in a PAL country, but we're getting to that later. For now, let's just say each and everyone should be choosing NTSC. Now let's just scroll down, and at the bottom we now find the anti-flicker, which we can set to either 50 Hz for Europe or 60 Hz. And now that is actually the point. If filming with a UAV, for example the Phantom 3, I was always just saying, hey guys, just choose NTSC and you'll be good to go, nothing else. Why was I mentioning it only that way? Simply because you were using the Phantom outdoors. There was no external electric light or something like that, but right now with the Osmo, you are probably going to shoot indoors. Simply take a look at this footage that I shot in Jerusalem, and take a look at the bad flicker, because I didn't adjust it correctly before filming. Now how to get rid of that? Again, 60 Hz for filming in the United States or North America, and 50 Hz for filming in Europe. And that could actually be the deal already. But later on, when you are filming in the manual mode, for example, the anti-flicker can't be set by you and yourself anymore. And there is another thing that you gotta take care of if you are filming with NTSC in a PAL country. But for now, let's just say put the anti-flicker on 60 Hz if you are located in North America, and put it onto 50 Hz if you're located in Europe. Finally, we can choose whether we want the file index mode to be set onto repeat or continuous. And that is actually quite simple to understand as well. If you're setting it onto repeat, it means that if you're recording a file DJI and the Osmo names it, I don't know, DJI 01, DJI 002, DJI 003 and so on. If you now go to the computer and copy the files there, delete them from the microSD card and put the microSD card back in place and start recording again, the Osmo will start from DJI 001, DJI 002 and so on and so on. I always recommend setting it onto continuous. Why is that so? Simply because you could get in trouble when, for example, having 3 files named DJI something and your computer wants to replace them, or you have to rename them, because when choosing continuous, it simply continues counting up. It would now say, okay, it would start at DJI 03, DJI 04, you copy and delete, then it starts at DJI 05, DJI 06. That way, you're simply not going to get into trouble. Now that was it within the first menu, and now let's just head back to the normal menus that you will usually take care of before filming, because you can leave these settings as they are if not traveling from one region to the other. Before we now get into the final settings, let's just set up the look of our images, and let's just set up the look of the live view by tapping at the camera symbol. And that opens up the camera menu. First of all, we are going to choose our video resolution, tap at it. And we are going to choose Ultra HD. Ultra HD is a little smaller than 4K at the top. Ultra HD is 3840 by 2160. First of all, it's the only superiorly high quality mode that offers 30 frames per second, and next to that, Ultra HD fits 16:9 monitors, so all our normal screens, TVs and stuff like that, while 4K is a little different and it would add black bars to the image. So let's just stay and stick with 3840 by 2160 with a frame rate of 30 frames per second. Next off is the video format, and actually we're not interested in the video format, but we are interested in the colors. Let's just imagine you would be the type of a guy that says, I want to film outdoors with the Osmo, and finally I want to sit down and, I don't know, simply upload the files and show them to the people, and I'll be good to go. That way you should be probably choosing none, because none doesn't change anything. It's kind of a standard mode. While all of those that say I want to go into post-production, even though you might not have a lot of knowledge, it's only about contrast and saturation in case of emergency, you should definitely choose D-Log, because D-Log reduces the colors. It adds kind of a grayish tone to them, which looks on the one hand a little cinematic, and on the other hand it looks a little less saturated and less with less contrast and stuff like that, and you can add that back in post. So why do the people actually choose that mode? Simply because if you are using the non mode, for example, you are having blown colors. For example, the blacks are all crushed blacks and the white is crushed white, while in the D-Log mode you're recording many gray tones in between, which means that you are not going to lose as many details as filming in the non mode. And this is actually kind of cool. If you're taking it into post-production, you can then decide yourself what you want to change, if you want things to be visible or if you want the colors to be blown out, whatever. I would, as a pro, and for, I don't know, each and every one out there that says, okay, I want to work with the stuff on the computer, I would definitely recommend using D-Log. And next up is the style. First of all, again, if you don't want to do anything, if you don't want to take your footage into post-production, you might choose standard, because the standard is quite okay and it looks quite nicely. But again, if you want to go into post-production, even though you might not be a pro, definitely tap at custom and lower all the data down, lower the sharpness down to -2, lower the saturation, lower the saturation down to -2 as well, and the contrast to -2 as well. Again, that way we are recording more details, and for example, the sharpness might sound nice, but actually 4K is superiorly sharp, and digital sharpness doesn't always look nice. It only sounds nice for people that are not into film technology or something like that, so always bring the sharpness down. And if you're finally sitting at the computer saying, I definitely need more sharpness, you could of course go and simply add a sharpness effect. I think each and every software has a sharpness tool, and you simply raise the sharpness that way. But definitely bring it down in here. Now let's just head back again. Next off is the white balance, and again, what does the white balance do? The white balance makes the white in the picture look white, and why is that so important? Simply because if the white balance is set incorrectly, the picture is either going to look too bluish, too coldish, or it's going to look too reddish, too warm. The white balance should always be set correctly. It's not a filter, so don't play around with it too much. I have it set onto auto always because it worked for me in, I don't know, various different situations that I tested it at, and it simply worked perfect. But if you experience the picture to be too reddish or too bluish, go in here, tap at custom, and play around with the degrees Kelvin, and simply change it that way. But as I said before, I never had to use it, neither on the Osmo nor on the DJI Phantom, so the auto white balance works quite well for me. Next off is grid, and the grid is actually pretty important, I think. We can choose between none, with nothing disturbing the view, or normal grid lines, or grid plus diagonals, or a center point only. And I think I would activate the grid lines. Why is that so? First of all, we remember some simple film rules as the rule of thirds, which means that if you're, for example, filming a person or a building, we don't want it to be right in the center, but we want it to be on those lines where those lines meet. That's where we want persons, buildings, or whatever we're filming to be at. And next to that, these lines tell us if the image is straight, if the gimbal is set correctly, or if the gimbal is tilted wrongly or something like that. We would immediately find out about it when simply looking at the grid lines, because the grid lines are of course always straight. Let's just head back again, and finally we find the histogram, and if we add the histogram, we're getting this mountain-like looking thing. And actually the understanding the histogram is quite easy. You gotta imagine that the histogram is split into 3 segments. The left segments shows us the shadows, the mid segments shows us the gray tones, and the right segments shows us the highlights, the bright light, and something like that. Now for a proper setup, we always want to make sure that all of these mountains are in the middle of the picture, because if one of these mountains would be at the very right hand side or left hand side, we would know that part of the image is either way too bright or way too dark. But I think I don't need it. If you need it, leave it turned on. I don't need it because I simply decide myself what I want the picture to look like. I turn it back off. Now if we scroll down, there is one more option, I think, and that's the mic gain. But I don't need it because I'm not working with an external mic right now, and I think 30 is fine as well. So right now we have set things up, and right now we can get into the normal settings. And those settings that I'm going to show you right now are the settings that you are going to take care of when filming normally. On top, we're having the info bar that shows us the ISO, the shutter speed, and stuff like that. And at the left hand side, we're having the photo video toggle. We're having a button that I'm going to talk about in a second. We're having the shutter release button, and we have the parameters. We have the playback button down here. Not that interesting, but actually let's get right into it. First of all, we're going to tap at the photo video toggle to switch to the video mode. And right below, we find a button that says auto. If we tap at it, we are having 2 options, auto or slow motion. And it's not really useful. Let's just say it's only for very special situations. Let's just say you're outdoors and you say, oh my gosh, I definitely need to record that very happening in slow motion. You could simply tap at slow motion here and it would start recording in full HD with 120 frames per second. And when choosing auto, it refers to the settings that you have yourself set. So usually only keep this on auto and you'll be good to go. And right below, we now find the parameters. Let's just tap at those. And that opens up the auto, shutter priority, or manual control. And actually, all 3 of them are kind of useful in different situations. If you say, okay, I only want to go out there, want to film some stuff, want to enjoy the video, leave things on auto, and the camera will simply decide itself what the ISO and the shutter speed and stuff like that will be set to. Next up is the shutter priority, and the shutter priority can be very, very helpful, for example, during nighttime filming. Now, how to set things manually. If you're not into film or photography a lot, this might sound difficult, but it's actually not. Only keep 2 rules in mind. The first rule is that the shutter speed should always be twice the frame rate, and because our frame rate is 30 frames per second, we should try to keep the shutter speed at 60. If the shutter speed is very, very fast, so a lot higher, for example, I don't know, 800 or something like that, the image simply looks, let's just say, looks too fast, it looks too sharp, it looks like too many pixels. It simply looks like blood splatter or something like that in TV. That is often filmed with a very high shutter speed. And if we lower it too badly, it simply looks too washed out, it looks too, I don't know, a little unsharp. The second rule refers to the ISO. The ISO brightens an image in dark situations. For example, you're filming at nighttime. The ISO can be set from, I don't know, we can simply figure it out, from 100 to maximum 3200 in here. But my recommendation is to keep it as low as possible always. You should only choose from 100 till a maximum of 800. If your ISO is higher than 800, you will be having a lot of noise inside the picture, and I really don't like it. And let's just say you're filming a really dark situation during night or something like that, and I experienced those situations lately myself in Jerusalem. Then you might think of either raising the ISO, but I really don't like the noise, and I even had to lower the shutter speed, even though that broke a rule, and I lowered it to minimum 30. And that way the picture was a little unsharp. I can show you an example right now. The picture was a little unsharp, but still it was not completely noisy. And I really like having not a completely noisy image, because I think bad noise, I simply as a filmmaker, I really can't stand too much noise. And yeah, I would only recommend using the ISO from minimum 100, which is the best, to 800 maximum. Okay, again, within the shutter priority mode, you can set a shutter speed, for example 60, and now the camera will set everything else automatically. This can be quite cool if you are not into film technology a lot, or for example during nighttime filming. It's actually quite nice. But if you want to get pro, you're of course going to tap at M, manual, and in here you can now set things yourself. I would recommend again 60, and now we could go down and say maybe 200 works out under these circumstances, even though I'm only filming a white cardboard. Not that interesting. And down here the EV only tells us that the image is a little too bright. The EV is perfect if it's set onto O. So if it says plus something, you know that the image is a little too bright, and if it says negative something, that way you know the image is a little too dark. Actually, there is one last hint of mine that I want to share with you. If you're filming outdoors and it's superiorly bright, it's of course possible that you would have to raise the shutter to, I don't know, high amounts. For example, I don't know, a couple of hundred or even thousands, for example 3200. That can happen in the summer, and that is kind of normal. How can you actually get the image to be darker without having to raise the shutter? It's pretty simple. Check out the description of this video. There is a tutorial of mine on ND filters. They simply work as sunglasses only for your gear, and they darken the image. There is a tutorial of mine, and there is a product link if you want to get some of those right away down in the video description as well. You could buy those, screw those on, and really those are superiorly helpful for achieving a cool film look. So guys, this was it, and there is only one last hint of mine, and that hint is actually superiorly important for all those that are filming NTSC in a PAL country. Again, NTSC, the American, the Japanese thing, and PAL Europe. So saying you're an American or you're even a German like me, I'm filming with NTSC because I want to have the 30 frames per second. I'm filming in Europe, in Germany, and I want to avoid the flickering, and I'm filming in manual mode, which means that I can't set 50 Hertz. What do? It's actually pretty simple again. There is a rule how to avoid bad flicker, and that is to set the shutter to either 50 or 100. Those are named safe shutter speeds, and those will avoid, I don't know, a bad flicker inside the image. Even though 150 is a little too slow when filming with 30 frames per second, but it's better than having a bad flicker. Or you could of course choose your shutter speed to be 100, and of course that would be a little too harsh, but again, it's better than having a bad flicker. So this was Tom from TTT Tom's Tech Time. Hope you enjoyed the episode and hope it was not too complicated. And yeah, leave a PayPal donation so I can keep up the work at www.tomstechtime.com/donate. Next to that, would be awesome if you would join my Facebook group, facebook.com/group/tomstechtime. Finally, leave a thumb up, subscribe, and leave a nice comment or question or whatever you've got right underneath the video. Thanks for watching. This was Tom from TTT Tom's Tech Time. Over and out. Stay tuned. I wanted to say fly safe. In this case, I gotta say stay tuned, film safe.